There's a part of you that never shows up in photos. She doesn't write on social media, doesn't meditate with mantras, doesn't dream of gratitude, but she feels it. She keeps memories. She watches in silence. It's that voice that appears in the dark when the world stops applauding you and only you are left with your emptiness, impulses, anger, and fears. She knows you more than your spiritual self would like to admit. That part is your shadow. And no, she is not the villain of your journey. It is a reflection of the parts you had to let go of to be accepted, the emotions you swallowed to be loved, the truths you distorted to be understood. But here's the paradox. As long as you continue trying to live only with the luminous half of who you are, your reality will seem confusing. Because whoever is driving your vibrational field is not what you want. It's what you still do not allow yourself to feel. In this video, we will reveal the invisible. The shadow is an active vibrational field. The body is a mirror of denied emotions, and the universe as a hologram of its non-integrated parts. You are not being sabotaged. You are just living the reflection of the frequency you haven't yet had the courage to embrace. And maybe, just maybe, your greatest power lies in the very thing you've learned to reject. Maybe you feel like your shadow is something that needs to be overcome. Something dirty, dark, a spiritual error to be corrected with mantras, reprogramming, or positive affirmations. But what if she is just a forgotten part of you, a piece of living energy that you stopped feeling? Carl Jung already said, the shadow is everything the ego refuses to recognize in itself. But let's go beyond psychology. Let's look through the eyes of the quantum field. The shadow is not just repressed mental content. She is an active frequency, a hidden vibration that, even in silence, modulates your perception, your choices, your energy. Imagine an electromagnetic field around you. This field doesn't just respond to what you think, it responds with millimeter precision to what you resist feeling. Every denied emotion, be it anger, envy, fear, sadness, does not disappear. She goes down, it settles in the energetic body, it is stored in cellular memories, and it begins to emit a continuous frequency that interacts with the unified field. Now think, if you desire love but your shadow vibrates with unhealed abandonment, what does the universe capture? If you affirm prosperity but avoid looking at your guilt for wanting more, what does the field respond to? Reality does not respond to your intention, respond to your coherence. And the shadow, when not felt, breaks this coherence, creates perceptual distortion. You start seeing enemies where there are mirrors, problems where there are invitations, and patterns where there are opportunities for reintegration. The shadow is like an energetic code waiting to be deciphered, not to be destroyed, but to be alchemized. And here is the point that few have the courage to touch. Shadow is not opposite to light. She is the light you have not yet allowed in. She is your anger asking for boundaries, your sadness asking for silence, your fear asking for presence. To deny it is to cut the thread that reconnects you to your own power. To feel is to become whole. In the unified field, nothing is rejected. Everything is recycled, realigned, reabsorbed into love. And when you stop resisting the shadow, she stops sabotaging you, because now she's gone vista, heard, felt, and integrated. And here is my question to close this chapter. What frequency within you is asking to be felt and not overcome? You say you want love, but it attracts absence. You say you want abundance, but it experiences shortages. You claim to be ready for healing, but it repeats patterns that make you sick. And it doesn't matter how many visualizations you do, how many positive phrases you repeat, or how many candles you light. Deep down, something seems to be moving against you, as if reality was silently laughing at his intention. But she's not. She's just responding to what you vibrate, not what you desire. Herein lies the central paradox of quantum spirituality. You never manifest what you want with your mind. You manifest what your body feels as true. This is the invisible division between two energy fields, the thinking mind, which desires, plans, idealizes, and the feeling mind, which vibrates, stores, and emits signals to the quantum field. The first one speaks loudly, the second commands in silence. You might say, I want a healthy relationship. But if your feeling mind vibrates with fear of abandonment, distrust, self-demand, the actual frequency that the field hears is, I am prepared to relive my wound. Because the quantum field, as Neville Goddard taught, doesn't read words, it reads the state of being. And the state of being is a vibrational composite between your imagination, your deep emotions, and your automatic impulses. Goddard taught that imagination is not a fanciful function but a creative antenna, and that when you imagine something with real emotional presence, you change the line of reality. But what he also said, and few understand, is that this imagination cannot be divided. In other words, there is no point in imagining with the mind and denying with the body. There is no point in wanting love while vibrating self-protection. There is no point in wishing for prosperity while vibrating with emotional scarcity and unworthiness. This creates vibrational duality, and duality in the quantum field generates noise. This noise disintegrates the coherence of the signal you emit, and the universe returns confusion. It's like trying to listen to a song on two radios at the same time. Neither plays clearly. And the most fascinating and disconcerting thing is that the unified field never makes mistakes. He doesn't punish you. He just reflects. If you repeatedly attract scarcity, lack, abandonment, or rejection, does not mean you are inadequate. It means there is an unrecognized shadow frequency commanding your dominant vibration. And this frequency doesn't have to be monstrous. Sometimes it's subtle, an inherited ancestral fear, a silent belief that it is dangerous to have it all, a hidden guilt for wanting more than what your parents had, an unconscious attachment to pain because it generates belonging. These frequencies form the hidden basis of your energy field, and until they are felt and not just understood, they continue to vibrate and creating. This is where quantum spirituality touches the soul. Desire is not magnetic if it does not come from a coherent body. You need to become vibrationally compatible with what you want, not just by intention, but by integration. And that requires more than techniques. It requires vibrational courage. Courage to look at your desire and ask, where is he coming from? Is this desire an affirmation of my wholeness or an attempt to fill my absence? Do I desire this because I am already in this state or because I still feel separate from it? This question changes everything, because it reveals that the problem was never desired. It was the frequency from which the desire was born. Reality doesn't give you what you want. It collapses what you already are incarnating, consciously or not. And as long as your mind desires the opposite of what your body vibrates, you will continue to attract the reflection of your incoherence. But when thinking mind and feeling mind align, you enter what physics calls coherent collapse of reality. Matter bends to the field, desire becomes a state, and the universe just respond. So here's the vibrational question that can rearrange everything. What inside you is contradicting what you want most? Not to be corrected, but to be felt, welcomed, and transformed into a frequency of truth. Look around you. See the repetitions of your life, relationships that end the same way, the opportunities that come and go, the emotions that come back like waves, even after so much spiritual work. Now stop and ask yourself, what if this is all just a reflection? A vibrational hologram, architected not by what you want, but for what he still hasn't had the courage to see it in himself. This is the essence of the unrecognized shadow. It does not disappear with meditation, nor with reading beautiful phrases. It transforms only when it is recognized as living part of your field. And until that happens, she continues doing what she does brilliantly. Organize your reality to show you what you refuse to feel. The shadow is the silent architect of the experiences that challenge you most. Not to sabotage you, but to reveal you. It lives between the lines of your energy field, and it is from there that the universe organizes the events, encounters, and mirrors of your journey. Greg Braden called it mirror field theory, a quantum and spiritual proposal that claims that the reality outside of you reflects, with holographic precision, the internal vibrational state, i.e., the universe is not teaching you something new. It is reflecting what you vibrate, even if unconsciously. And what is a hologram? It is a three-dimensional image created from the interference of frequencies. In your case, your external life is a hologram created from the frequencies coherent and incoherent that emanate from you. Your unrecognized anger is projected onto intolerant people. Your unhealed fear manifests as unstable circumstances. Your muffled sadness appears in empty conversations, in lukewarm relationships, in nameless tiredness. None of this is personal, it's vibrational. Reality has no opinion about you. She just mirrors its field. And here is the quantum spiritual key. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what is in vibrational coherence with your hidden state. The shadow is not a black hole. She is an energetic field loaded with emotional data, memories, impulses, and traumas. It is the part of your field that operates without the awareness of the rational self, but with the precision of someone who has experienced this dozens of times. And as long as you try to solve your life only from a logical point of view, or with practices that do not go through the energetic body, you will keep running in the shadow hologram. It doesn't matter how many goals you write. If your field still vibrates self-sabotage, you will create paths that sabotage you without even realizing it. Therefore, the question should never be, why is this happening to me? But yes, what part of me created this as a mirror for my reintegration? Reality is generous to those who are willing to see, but she is ruthless with those who pretend not to feel. And it's not about cleaning the shadow as if it were dirt. It is about recognizing that she is the other side of your light, the untamed side, the side that carries precious information about who you really are. And when you set out to enter that field with presence, without judgment, without urgency to heal, but with the genuine desire to see yourself whole, the hologram begins to rearrange itself. You change the field, and reality changes with you. Because now, the shadow is no longer the invisible architect of sabotage and became an ally of its expansion. And perhaps the truest question is, if everything that happens in your life is a reflection, what part of you is asking to be loved where you just want to escape? Not all light heals. Not all elevated speech is expanded vibration. Not all spirituality is a bridge to reality. Sometimes light is a mask, a sophisticated way to avoid pain, a polished, beautiful, inspiring, but dysfunctional vibrational armor. This is the slippery slope of egoic spirituality, when without realizing it, you start using awakening as a way to protect yourself from parts of yourself that still hurt. When you confuse elevation with negation, expansion with escape. And that's not uncommon. It's a collective movement, and a deeply understandable one. Because living with an open heart hurts. Feeling the shadow, it's scary. Being vulnerable requires energetic courage. So the ego, master of adaptation, finds a new disguise, the spiritualized self. He is the one who only talks about love, but does not tolerate frustration. Who claims to be elevated, but reacts with silent arrogance to other people's unconsciousness. Who forgives too quickly, not out of peace, but out of fear of facing his own resentment. That teaches us to vibrate high, but is terrified of feeling sadness. But the truth is that no light that represses shadow is stable, because in the quantum field, everything that is denied intensifies. Pent-up energy builds up, and the body begins to vibrate tension where there should be lightness. You can talk about universal love, but if your heart chakra is contracted by undigested hurts, the field perceives, and he answers, because the universe does not respond to your superficial intention. It responds to your state reel. And the real state also includes the parts you would like to spiritualize with ready-made phrases, empty mantras, and unrealistic postures. True quantum spirituality is not aesthetic. She has a raw vibration. It is about going through the discomfort of density, in no rush to leave. It is embracing pain as a frequency to be listened to, not eliminated. It is understanding that raising the frequency does not mean moving away from what is human, meaning feel with presence until it dissolves naturally. This is the key. Presence transfigures what artificial positivity only muffles. True light is compassionate, not performative. She embraces the inner cries before posting external gratitude. She sits next to anger without running. She listens to fear without trying to silence it with cliches. And this is where egoic spirituality breaks down. When you realize that it doesn't need to be elevated, it needs to be whole. You didn't come to overcome your shadow. You came to integrate it, transform it, allow it to reintegrate into your field as an alchemical force. Because in the end, the spiritualized ego is just another movement of separation, a disguised way of saying, this part of me doesn't deserve to be loved. I need to hide it with light. But true healing happens when you say, that part of me is part of me. And if it is part, it has a place. And it is at that moment that the field changes, because now there is coherence. You stop trying to look like, and it starts to be. And then the universe finally recognizes your vibration as true. The body never lies. It saves, stores, and transmits. Even when the mind denies, rationalizes, or spiritualizes, the body feels. And what he feels, he vibrates. And what it vibrates, the quantum field reads. If the mind is a searching antenna, the body is the transmitter that reveals what is actually being sent to the universe. That's why you often say you want something, but your body vibrates the opposite. This is one of the great keys to quantum spirituality applied to reality. It's not enough to change your thinking. You need to realign your body as an energetic technology. Because the shadow does not only inhabit the psychological unconscious, it manifests itself as energy density in specific regions of the body, like blockages in the chakras, like symptoms that medicine cannot explain, such as chronic fatigue, recurring tension, unexplained swings in mood and vitality. And this is not metaphorical, it's vibrational science. Every denied emotion generates a field of resonance that seeks expression, and when it doesn't find a conscious outlet, it accumulates. It descends from the mental field and settles in the nervous system, in the muscles, in the subtle organs. Therefore, illnesses are often vibrational screams from the unfelt shadow. A blocked throat chakra can reveal years of imposed silences, swallowed words, and denied authenticity. A collapsed solar plexus can hide inherited guilt, fears of making mistakes, and self-sabotage formed in childhood. A tight heart, behind a spirituality of love, may be begging for acceptance of old pain that never had space to be validated. Eastern medicine has known this for millennia. In acupuncture, Chinese medicine, Reiki, and Southern maps, the body is read as an energy field before being a physical structure. Each organ is seen as a vibrational repository of emotions, and today's quantum spirituality only confirms what the ancients always knew. The body is a vibrational mirror of consciousness. Joe Dispenza explains that the body becomes the living unconscious. That is, it continues to repeat emotional patterns even when the mind has already understood that it is time to change, because the body has not yet released the registration. And this record only dissolves with conscious presence, not in a hurry, not with formulas, but with the radical act of feeling without censorship. The integration of the shadow, then, passes through the body. And this is where much spirituality fails. She tries to heal only with affirmations, with light, with mental practices. But forget that the body vibrates before any thought. And where there is pain, there is data. Living information asking to be seen, heard, touched. There is no need to analyze every pain, but it is necessary to establish a vibrational listening channel. Meditations that bring focus to energy centers, conscious touches, breathing that breaks through blockages, intuitive movement, guided silence where the shadow is not denied but breathed. Healing does not happen by accelerating the search. It happens in slowness of presence. Because when you stop denying what you feel, the body stops fighting and the energy field reorganizes itself. The universe feels, reality responds. You don't need to understand everything, but you need to feel enough to dissolve what was crystallized. And when the body is freed, the shadow transforms into vibrational wisdom. And here's the question that can open your next healing portal. What part of your body is screaming what your mind insists on denying? We live in a culture that is terrified of emptiness. Everything needs to be filled in. Every moment needs sound, image, task, stimulus. Even in spirituality, silence has become something to be managed with guided meditations, frequency playlists, and sequential practices. But true silence, the one without distraction, without performance, without promise of immediate relief, scares. Because in it, you encounter what you have avoided feeling your entire life. And it is there, in that space between the noise of the ego and the verb of the mind, that something more subtle begins to reveal itself. The voice of your soul. Not a voice that screams, but a silent vibration. A knowledge that does not come from logic, but from felt vibration. A field where shadow and light stop fighting and they begin to listen to each other. Quantum spirituality teaches us that vacuum, emptiness, is not absence. It is the fertile field of all possibilities. It is the space where frequencies collapse into realities. In physics, this is called zero-point field, an invisible ocean of energy where everything is still potential. In the body, this field manifests when you enter a state of deep stillness. In spirit, it is the place where your identity dissolves and the real self emerges. But to get there, you have to get through the most difficult layer, the discomfort. Because at first, emptiness seems like a threat. It's like a mirror that doesn't return an image. You look and see nothing. But in fact, you are seeing beyond what your mind has been trained to recognize. This is where emotional memories emerge. That's where energetic masks fall. That's where the shadow stops being a narrative and turns into pure vibration, asking for recognition. Joe Dispenza says that we are in the states of slower brainwaves, like theta and delta. The brain goes out of survival mode and enters a state where the quantum field can finally access the vibrational body. It is in deep silence that you step out of the identity of the limited self and access the field of I frequencies. But this process requires commitment. It is not a thing, it's allowed. And here's the paradox. The more you try to escape the void with practices, techniques, distractions, the further you move away from the point where the soul actually communicates. Because the soul does not scream, she whispers, and only those who stop can hear. In the void, pain appears, but with it, there also appears the truth. Clarity. Oh, insight. That's when you realize you're not lost. He's just afraid to be there. And the shadow in this space loses its monstrous appearance, because it dissolves under the light of serene consciousness. Not of the performative light, but of the presence that welcomes without demanding. The void is the vibrational womb of creation. It is in this that the frequencies are rearranged. It's when you stop looking for something new and begins to remember who you always were. This space is non-negotiable. It is he who separates superficial spirituality from real reconnection. He is the one who transforms pain into power, noise in revelation, shadow in wisdom. And maybe now you can breathe differently, not to fill, but to allow yourself to feel what emerges when nothing is said. Because in this silence lies the question that can reshape you. If you stopped running from the void, what would your soul finally be able to tell you? There are pains in you that did not begin in you. There are fears that aren't yours, but that feel as if they are. There are patterns that have been repeating themselves for so long in your life. That seems part of your identity, but they are not. They are inherited vibrational memories. Quantum spirituality and modern epigenetics are increasingly saying the same thing. You carry fields of information that were not generated solely by your direct experiences. You are a point of expression of a network, from a field, of a lineage. This doesn't mean you're stuck in the past, but it means you are being invited to transform it on behalf of all who came before. Bruce Lipton, studying epigenetics, showed that genes can be turned on or off by emotional environments. But what is this environment? It is the dominant frequency of your perception. It is the emotional field in which your biology has learned to survive. Now think, if your grandmother lived in scarcity, if your father carried fear of failure, if your mother had to deny herself to be accepted, this information does not die with them. They remain in the familiar morphogenetic field, a type of collective vibrational bank, where emotions, traumas, and beliefs are organized as an invisible ecosystem. And if you are alive now, in this time of awakening, it is because your field was chosen to stop the repetition, to transform shadow into bridge, pain in conscience, weight on release. But for that, it is necessary to recognize that not everything you feel is yours, but it becomes yours if you reject it. Because what you don't welcome, you crystallize. And what you welcome, you transmute. The inherited shadow does not want revenge. She wants a voice. She wants to be looked at not with judgment, but with presence. How many times have you felt anger that seemed disproportionate, or a sadness that had no name, or a fear that made no sense but paralyzed you? These are signs, resonances of memories that live within you, but they started somewhere in their lineage. And what happens when you refuse to feel? The energy keeps running, and the field, trying to reorganize itself, creates repetitive patterns. Relationships that echo your mother's abandonment. Financial crises that vibrate your grandfather's scarcity. difficulty in asserting that it reflects the submission of your great-grandmother. And all of this is living quantum spirituality, because the field does not know linear time. It responds to frequencies, and frequency is memory vibrating. But here's the miracle. You can be the breaking point. You can be the portal of transmutation. Welcome without identifying yourself. Looking at ancestral pain with reverence, not heaviness. Creating internal rituals of vibrational liberation where you say, "It has passed me by, but it doesn't have to stay with me." Entering a meditative state, visualizing your lineage surrounded by light and offering the countryside a new vibration of peace, security, and belonging. You don't need to solve your family's traumas, but can interrupt the cycle that repeats them. And by doing so, you heal not only yourself, but also those who came before and those who are yet to come. This is the spirituality that honors matter, that honors the body, that honors ancestry as vibrational technology. So stop for a moment, feel it. Since ancient times, alchemists have sought to transform lead into gold, but true masters knew that the process wasn't literal, it was symbolic and spiritual. Lead represents the shadow, dense, heavy, invisible. Gold represents the integrated being, luminous, centered, coherent. And the fire that transforms one into the other is the conscious presence powered by sacred vibration. Modern quantum spirituality reclaims this ancient wisdom with new language, vibrational transmutation. Not as a hasty technique to get rid of what bothers you, but as an inner art of real transformation. Because the shadow, that part of you that carries fear, jealousy, anger, self-sabotage, shame, she does not disappear. She is recycled. She vibrationally alters when it finds a field of presence that does not judge it. You don't heal the shadow by trying to be light. You heal it by getting in touch with its root, feeling its energetic texture, listening to your purpose, understanding that every dark part of you has emerged as an attempt to survive. Anger taught you to say no. Sadness showed you where presence was missing. Guilt has revealed to you where you have disconnected from love. Fear protected you from wounds that seemed unbearable. But when these emotions become a dominant state and not a momentary tool, they become shadows, and the only way to transmute them is cross them. Spiritual alchemy begins when you stop avoiding it, and it starts to witness. What does this mean in practice? When you feel angry, take a deep breath, go to it and say, "I see you. Show me what you keep inside." When sadness arises, lie with it, breathe, and allow it to speak what the body did not dare to say. When you notice sabotage, ask with compassion, "What are you trying to protect me from feeling?" This active listening is the beginning of alchemy, because in that state, you do not reinforce the pattern. You dissolve it with presence. The vibration of presence is the alchemical fire. It is she who transmutes the vibrational pattern of pain into healing information. And the more you sustain this unhurried fire, the more emotional residues lose density. But the shadow stops operating automatically, and the more your vibration rises, not by effort, but by release. This is the difference between repression and transmutation. Repression freezes energy. Transmutation releases the form but maintains the transformed essence. Quantum spirituality does not seek to eliminate the shadow. She reintegrates it into the field with a new role. Just as the alchemist transformed heavy metals into elixirs, you transform dense experiences into incarnate wisdom. The inner gold is this, the light that can only be born when you have passed through the dark night, not as punishment, but as an energetic rite of passage. And this passage is silent. It happens when, one day, you feel something difficult, but instead of running away, you are. You breathe. You allow it. And the emotion previously frozen dissolves like mist in the sun of your consciousness. Have you ever tried to vibrate high when you were in a crisis? Have you ever forced gratitude when your body was asking for silence? Have you ever repeated positive affirmations with eyes wet with tiredness? This is where many spiritual journeys go astray, when they try to use light as a tool of repression instead of a bridge to integration. Light by itself does not heal. It only illuminates what is hidden. But what cures is the presence. Presence is the field where the shadow loses the power of illusion. Because while you run from her, she commands. But when you look, it dissolves. Quantum spirituality is clear on this point. There is no vibrational coherence without energetic integrity. And integrity is not perfection, it is wholeness. It's when you stop running away from what you feel. It's when you stop trying to fix your emotional state with external formulas and starts to inhabit the moment with authenticity. The quantum field responds to the truth of your being, no to spiritual performance. You can repeat 1,000 times that you trust the universe. But if your nervous system vibrates with anxiety, the frequency that will be emitted is not trust, it is fear in disguise. You can say, I am in love. But if you are running away from anger, jealousy, pain, its vibration carries noise. And the field reads this accurately. Because he doesn't respond to what you say, he responds to what you sustain. And what sustains your vibration is the quality of your presence with what exists. Presence does not mean liking what you feel, but it means do not give up on this. When you feel sadness and breathe with it, you are present. When you feel fear and say internally, I am with you, you are present. When you find yourself irritated and listen to yourself instead of judging yourself, you are practicing real spirituality. This is the forgotten key to the inner journey. The shadow does not need to be overcome. It needs to be held with consciousness until it reveals itself as strength. Joe Dispenza teaches that dense emotions held for long periods crystallize fields, but he also teaches that these fields can be released when you change your state of being. And this state does not change by negation, changes by deep welcome. It's like looking at a wounded child. You don't tell her to be happy. You sit next to her, you hear, you hold his hand. That's what your shadow needs. Not of phrases, but from you. It is the presence that dissolves the pain. Not because it eliminates it, but why transform it into felt wisdom. So whenever something difficult comes up, do not try to escape with artificial light. Sit in the dark with respect, and you will see the shadow. It's not the end. It's the beginning of a new version of yourself. And maybe now you can breathe a little deeper and ask yourself honestly, what in me is asking for less explanation and more silent presence? At the beginning of the journey, you believe you need to become enlightened. Halfway through, you realize you need to understand yourself. In the end, or perhaps in the true beginning, you discover that all you need, misremember. Remember that you were never a fragment, that there never was a right side and a wrong side of you, that there is no division between what is light and what is shadow. Why not a unified field? Everything is energy at different frequencies, asking for reconciliation. Integrating the shadow is more than healing. It is returned. It is returning to the point where your essence pulses completely, without masks, without fear, without trying to fit into an ideal. Carl Jung said, to be enlightened is not to imagine figures of light, but to make the darkness conscious. And this isn't just psychological, it is deeply vibrational. Quantum spirituality shows us that field coherence only occurs when all energy centers enter into resonance. Not just the tall ones, not just the beautiful ones, but also the instinctive, the dense, the nonconformist. This coherence is only possible when energy no longer needs to hide, when anger is felt responsibly, when fear is heard with compassion, when sadness finds rest without rushing to leave. At this point, you no longer seek to raise your vibration as an escape. You expand your vibration as a result of having stopped dividing internally, and something magical happens. Your field changes. People react differently. Situations rearrange themselves. You get in sync with the truest versions of yourself. Because now the universe is no longer responding to isolated parts, but to a being unified. This is true inner unity. Not a zone of perfection, but a vibrational state where the soul is no longer at war with itself. You stop trying to protect yourself from the world, and it starts to emanate a presence to the world, not as a defense, but as a natural expression of who you are. The shadow was not eliminated, it was transfigured, like lead that turned to gold, like fear that turned into wisdom, like the pain that became a portal. And this return to the whole is not an arrival, it's a state of being. This is when the spiritual quest becomes home, and spirituality ceases to be practical, to become a live vibration. So maybe now it's no longer necessary to run away from yourself, nor prove who you are. Because you remembered, you are whole, you are a presence, you are the whole expressing itself in human form. And here's the question that can end this journey with the power of a new beginning. What if everything you thought was a failure was just the part of you that was waiting to be welcomed back into the whole?